Hello students, this is Zinali Shah from Saraswat International Academy. Today we will begin with the next part of the chapter Human Reproduction. In the previous lectures we have studied regarding the male reproductive system, female reproductive system, gametogenesis, that is formation of the sperms through spermatogenesis, and formation of the ovum through oogenesis. We have also studied regarding the menstrual cycle occurring in the females of. Now today we will begin with the next part of our chapter, that is fertilization and implantation. Now how fertilization and implantation takes place. So during copulation, that is coitus, the semen is released by the penis into the vagina and that process is called as insemination. So during copulation, the males, they release the semen into the vagina of the females. Now these motile sperms, they swim rapidly, pass through the cervix, enter the uterus and finally reach the junction of the isthmus and ampulla of the fallopian tubes. So whatever sperms are released into the vagina of the females, that sperms will swim and enter cervix, through cervix they enter into the uterus and they enter into the junction of the isthmus and ampulla of the fallopian tube. That junction is also called as ampullary isthmic junction. Now the ovum which is released by the ovary, it is also transported to the ampullary isthmic junction where fertilization takes place. So students, whatever ovum is released by the ovary, that is also transported to the isthmic ampullary junction. So that junction is a part where the fertilization is going to take place. Which junction? Ampullary isthmic junction. We know ampulla and isthmus both are the parts of the fallopian tube. So fallopian tube is a structure where fertilization takes place. And it is which part of the fallopian tube? So it is ampullary isthmic junction. Now fertilization. What is fertilization? Basically it is fusion of the male and the female gamete, or you can say fusion of the ovum and the sperm. That process is called as the fertilization. Now students, keep in mind that fertilization can occur only if the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary isthmic junction. So that is the most important requirement for fertilization to occur. What is that? That the sperms and ovums need to be transported simultaneously to the ampullary isthmic junction. And this is the reason why not all the copulations results into fertilization and pregnancy. As ovum and sperms, they do not simultaneously move to the ampullary isthmic junction. That is the reason why not all the copulations, they lead to the fertilization and pregnancy. Now before sperm can enter the egg, so before sperm enters into the egg, it has to cross different layers. So first of all, it must penetrate the multiple layers of the granulosa cell, or also called as the follicular cells, which are found surrounding the ovum, forming the corona radiata. Now we have studied the formation of the follicles into the females. So now before the sperm enters into the egg cell, it has to cross, it has to penetrate the multiple layers of the granulosa cell, which are found surrounding the ovum, and that are the corona radiata. So what is corona radiata? So basically they are the granulosa cells which lie in close vicinity of the zona pellucida, and zona pellucida again is a layer surrounding the cell membrane of the egg cell. So before the sperm enters into the egg, the sperm must penetrate the follicular cells which are found around the ovum, forming the corona radiata. Now all these follicular cells, they are held together or they are attached with each other by a adhesive substance, and that adhesive or cementing substance is called as the hyaluronic acid. So the follicular cells surrounding the ovum, they are cemented with each other by an chemical called as the hyaluronic acid. Now, the acrosomal membrane disintegrates, releasing the proteolytic enzyme called as the hyaluronidase during the sperm entry through the corona radiata and zona pellucida, and this is called as the acrosomal reaction. So basically we know that sperm head contains the acrosome, and this acrosome contains a proteolytic enzyme which is called as the hyaluronidase. So the membrane of the acrosome disintegrates. As it disintegrates, it releases the hyaluronidase enzyme, and this enzyme allows the sperms to pass through corona radiata and zona pellucida, through which finally the sperms will enter into the egg cell. So this reaction is called as an acrosomal reaction. Now, once the fertilization is accomplished, what happens? The cortical granules. Now, these cortical granules are the regulatory secretory organelles which are found inside the egg cell. So, once the fusion have occurred, that is, once the sperm have fused with the egg cell, so what happens? The cortical granules which are found in the cytoplasm of the ovum, they form a barrier which is called as the fertilization membrane, and they form a barrier around ovum so that the penetrations of the other sperms can be prevented. Now we know that millions of sperm can be entered through one insemination. So basically fertilization occurs by the fusion of one sperm and one ovum. So cortical granules which are found in the cytoplasm of the ovum, they form the fertilization membrane around the ovum once the process of fertilization is once the process of fertilization have completed. So this prevents that the other sperms do not penetrate the fertilization membrane, and through this the polyspermy can be prevented. Poly means many, spermy, so that many sperms do not enter into the egg cell. So that is very important, that the cortical granules found in the cytoplasm of the ovum, they form the barrier around the ovum called as the fertilization membrane, which prevents the entry of the other sperms. This in turn prevents the polyspermy. So these are the events which are occurring during the process of fertilization. So you can see these are the many sperms which are passing through the membrane. From these sperms, only one of the sperm can enter inside the egg cell. So here you can see that the sperm migrates through the coat of the follicle cells and binds to the receptor molecules which are found in the zona pellucida layer. Now this binding causes the acrosomal reaction, and through the acrosomal reaction, what will be happening? The hyaluronidase enzyme will be released into the zona pellucida. So now what happens? The breakdown of the zona pellucida allows the sperms to reach the egg membrane, or you can say plasma membrane of the egg cell. Then the nucleus and components of the cells of the sperms, they enter into the egg cells, and finally the cortical granules, they form a barrier called as the fertilization membrane, which now function as a block to prevent the polyspermy. So basically, see, these are the different reactions. Basically, this is the first one. The sperms passes through the various layers. These are the layers of the follicular cells. Then the second one is binding of the sperm to the to the zona pellucida, and which causes the basically acrosome reactions. Then this zona pellucida layer will break. So here you can see zona pellucida layer is breakdown. Then the components of the sperm, they enter inside the egg cell, and finally the cortical granule, they form the fertilization membrane, which prevents the process of the polyspermy. So these are the various events which occur at the time of the fertilization. So again here, see, this is the process. These are the corona radiata cells. These are the sperm cell. This is the layer of the zona pellucida, and this is a perivitelline space. So basically it is a space between the zona pellucida and the cell membrane of an fertilized egg or of an oocyte. So this is the process of the fertilization. Now what happens? So during the process of fertilization, the sperms, it comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer. So sperms, they come into the contact of the zona pellucida, and this changes this allows the changes in the membrane, which brings about the blockage of the entry of the additional sperms. As I told you, due to that fertilization membrane is formed, and this fertilization membrane does not allow the other sperms to enter. So which ensures that only one sperm can fertilize the ovum. Again, as I told you earlier, for this the secretions of the acrosome, they help the sperm to enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. Now, as we have already studied during the oogenesis, that the cell division at the time of ovulation, the cell division is arrested at the metaphase 2 of the meiosis 2. So now, if fertilization occurs, then this meiotic division will be completed in the secondary oocyte. So now, this second meiotic division, which occurs after the process of fertilization, is also an unequal meiotic division, resulting into the formation of the second polar body and then haploid ovum, or also called as the oocyte. Now soon the haploid nucleus of the sperms and of the ovum, they fuse with each other to form a zygote. So the fertilization process finally leads to the formation of the zygote. So once the sperm enters into the egg cell, or you can say once the process of fertilization is over, the second meiotic division, which was arrested at the metaphase 2 stage, it gets completed, and it again results into the formation of the two unequal cells. One cell is very small in size, and that is called as the second polar body, and one is a larger cell called as a ovum or a oocyte. Basically, the second polar body will disintegrate. Now, the nuclei of a sperm and ovum, they will fuse with each other and finally result in the formation of the zygote. Now, students, you need to remember that the sex of a child will be determined at this stage. That is, sex of the child will be determined at the stage of the zygote. Now, we all know the chromosome patterns in the human males and female. So basically, when we talk about the chromosome pattern of the human female, basically it consists of the XX1, and that of the male is XY. So basically, the sex chromosome of the female has XX combination, and that of the male has XY combination. Now basically, when the gametes are formed, so basically the female will have the sex chromosome X, whereas when we talk about the male gametes which are formed, so the sex chromosome could be either X or Y, because their composition is X and Y. So 50% of the sperms contain the X chromosome, and 50% of the sperms, they carry the Y chromosome. So we know the chromosome pattern of the males and females in humans. Of males it is XY, and of females it is XX. So when the gametes are produced by the female, or basically the eggs, they have the sex chromosome X. All the eggs, they will contain the sex chromosome X. Whereas in the males, the sperms which are produced, so either they could have the X sex chromosome or they could have the Y sex chromosome. So basically 50% of the sperms, they carry the X chromosome, and 50% of the sperms, they carry the Y chromosome. Now we know that fertilization is basically the fusion of the male and female gamete. Now we know that all the female gametes carry which type of the chromosome? It is X chromosome. But it is the males where 50% of the sperms are having the X chromosome and 50% of them are having the Y chromosome. So now which male gamete or which chromosome containing male gamete fuses with the female gamete decides the sex of the child. So after the fusion of the male and female gametes, basically zygote would contain either XX chromosome or it would contain XY chromosome. So basically after fusion of male and female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y chromosome have fertilized the ovum. So now what would be the condition of the zygote? Zygote after fusion will contain either XX chromosome or XY chromosome. Now this condition of the zygote is dependent on what? So it is dependent on which type of sperm have fertilized the ovum. Because all the ovums will carry which chromosome? X chromosome. But it is the sperms which decides the sex of the chromosome. If the sperm carrying the X chromosome fuses with the ovum, then the zygote would contain XX chromosome, and if the sperm carrying Y chromosome have fertilized the ovum, then the zygote would carry XY chromosome. So now if the zygote carry XX chromosome, then it will develop into a female baby, and if it carries XY chromosome, then it would form a male. So it is scientifically correct to say that the sex of the baby is determined by the father and not the mother. So mother should never be blamed for the sex of the child, because it is the sperms which decides the sex of the zygote. If the sperm carrying X chromosome fuses with the egg, then it will develop into a female baby, and if a sperm carrying the Y chromosome fuses with the egg, then it would be a male baby. So this is a chart representation showing the sex determination in the human beings. We know the father, which is always have the XY chromosome, mother will have the XX chromosome. The gametes form would be, one gamete would be containing X chromosome, one would be Y, and in female all the gametes would contain the X chromosome. So what are gametes? Basically they are the reproductive cell. Now we will see the condition. Suppose if this chromosome of the, or if this sperm of the father, or if the sperm containing X chromosome of the father fuses with the mother gamete, that is the egg containing X chromosome, then it would produce a zygote which will have the XX condition. Again, if this sperm fuses with this particular egg, then again it will produce a zygote containing a XX chromosome. Now if the Y chromosome containing sperm fuses with the X chromosome containing a mother X cell, then it would be XY. Again this fuses with this, then it would be XY. Now if XXXS, then that would be a female baby. So 50% probability of the female child. If XY, then there is a 50% probability of the male child. So that is how the fertilization occurs. Now fertilization reaction results in the formation of the zygote. Now what happens to the zygote? So the cleavage occurs in the zygote. There will be a cleavage which occurs into the zygote. And the first cleavage in the zygote, it produces two identical cells. And these two identical cells are called as the blastomere. So first cleavage resulting into the zygote results in the formation of the two identical cells which are called as the blastomeres. Now basically further reactions are all the mitotic divisions. So zygote mitotically divides and produces two identical cells called as the blastomeres. These two identical cells also continue to go on continue the mitotic division resulting in the formation of 4 cells. Then this 4 cells produces 8 cell produces 16 cells and so on. All these cells are nothing but the blastomeres. Now, after 72 hours of fertilization, a loose collection of forms, which is a berry shaped cluster of 8 to 16 cells, and this cluster of 8 to 16 cells is called as a morula. So students, after 72 hours of fertilization, a cluster of 8 to 16 cells is formed, and the shape of this cluster of the cell is basically berry shaped. So this berry shaped cluster of 8 to 16 cells formed 72 hours after fertilization is called as the morula. Now, the cells of the morula, they also continue to divide, and this morula gets transformed into the blastocyst, and this blastocyst moves further into the uterus. We know that fertilization have occurred at the ampullary isthmic junction. Now from there the zygote is formed. Zygote slowly divides. It is also transported and forms a blastocyst. And this blastocyst, it moves towards the uterus. So basically you will see here that this is a fertilized egg which is called as the zygote, which is formed at the ampullary isthmic junction. Now cleavage is there, 4 cells are formed. Then this is a cluster of cells which is called as the morula, and this is the blastocyst. We will see at the later slide that how this blastocyst is formed, and this blastocyst finally reaches where? It reaches to the uterus. So this is from zygote to blastocyst, that is passage of the growing embryo through the fallopian tube. So here you can see the zygote is formed into the isthmic ampullary junction, which slowly transports, and finally where it enters into the uterus. Now what happens? Now under the influence of the progesterone, the smooth muscles of the fallopian tube, they relax, and the dividing embryo, it takes 4 to 5 days to move through the fallopian tube into the uterine cavity, and finally inside the uterine cavity it gets implanted in the uterine wall. So zygote, after the formation and its division, after 4 to 5 days it finally reaches into the uterus, and after reaching uterus it gets implanted into the wall of the uterus. Now once it when it is transported to the uterus and when it is implanted, the embryo, it consists of a fluid filled hollow ball of about 100 cells, and that is called as a blastocyst. So basically the fluid filled hollow ball of approximately 100 cells is called as the blastocyst. Now how are the cells arranged into the blastocyst? So basically the blastocyst, it is composed of a single layer of a large flattened cell. That layer of a large flattened cell is called as the trophoblast, and within the trophoblast is a small cluster of approximately 20 to 30 round cells, and that cluster of 20 to 30 round cell is called as the inner cell mass. So basically see, this is the outer layer. So this outer layer consists of the flat cells, and this outer layer of the flat cells is called as the trophoblast. Now within that trophoblast there is a group of approximately 20 to 30 cells, and this is called as the inner cell mass. The cells of the trophoblast are large flat cells, whereas the cells of the inner cell mass are basically the rounded cells. Now what happens to the trophoblast? This trophoblast layer gets attached to the endometrium. Endometrium is the inner wall of the uterus, and this trophoblast later gets associated with the formation of the placenta, which you will study later. So trophoblast basically functions to form the placenta. Now it is the inner cell mass of the blastocyst which develops into the embryo. So main embryo will be formed from the inner cell mass, and it is the inner cell mass which is embedded again into the endometrium of the uterus. So both trophoblast and inner cell mass, they get embedded into the endometrium layer of the uterus. After the attachment, once the inner cell mass and trophoblast they attaches to the uterine cells, the uterine cell they will divide and will rapidly cover the blastocyst. So complete blastocyst will be covered by the cells of the uterus after their attachment. As a result, the blastocyst becomes embedded into the endometrium. So finally, as the uterine cells they divide and cover the blastocyst, what happens? This blastocyst gets embedded into the endometrium of the uterus, and it is this process which is called as implantation, which finally results into the pregnancy. So what happens into the morula? Morula results into the formation of blastocyst. What is the structure of a blastocyst? So basically it consists of an outer single layer of flat cells, and inner to it consists a group of 20 to 30 cells which is called as inner cell mass. So the layer of the large flat cells, it is called as trophoblast, which gets attached to the endometrium, which later will form the placenta. And the inner cell mass, it is the inner cell mass which will result in the formation of the embryo, which also gets attached to the, or it also gets embedded into the endometrium layer. Later, once the blastocysts have attached to the endometrial layer, what happens? The cells of the uterus they will divide and cover the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocyst it becomes embedded into the endometrium. It is this process which is called as implantation, which finally results into the pregnancy. So this is basically the structure. So you can see, so basically this is the egg cell, this is the fertilization, this is the first cleavage in the zygote resulting into the formation of the blastomeres. This is a 4-cell stage, this is a morula stage. Now see here, it is the morula. Now this morula continues to divide, and finally it gets entered into the uterus, and what it is, this structure is called as the blastocyst. So basically see, this is the blastocyst. It consists of the outer layer of cell which is called as the trophoblast, and this is the inner cell mass. This structure is called as the inner cell mass, and it is the inner cell mass which will later form the embryo of the fetus. So this is how the fertilization and implantation takes place. Here we come to the end of this topic. Further topics will be discussed into the next videos. Thank you, students.